Welcome to Season 2 of the Safety Foundations webinar series here at the ACSA. My name is Mark Hoosein. I'm the CEO of the Alberta Construction Safety Association, and I'm so glad to welcome you all here with us today. Before we start, please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be available on the Alberta Construction Safety Association's YouTube channel by Monday of next week. Now, this is a very special conversation, and it continues the important discussions from the ACSA's 2024 Conference Partners Panel, focusing on safety and business excellence in Alberta's construction industry. At our conference, we received many great questions addressed to our panel of industry experts and partners. We could not get to all of them, and I'm so appreciative of the engagement we had. So today and next week, we'll revisit those questions and open the conversation to other questions you or our webinar attendees might have for our panelists. So just a note on questions, we are using Slido just like last season to manage our questions. When you submit new questions, this is where you can submit questions and vote on the ones you're most interested in. So go to slido.com and enter Safety Excellence 1 as one word. Safety Excellence and the number 1 as one word. Once you join Slido, you'll see a few short questions. Please answer these as we get started. So I'd like to take some time to introduce our two panelists. So today we're joined by Adrianne Lozinski with Alberta Workers' Compensation Board, or WCB, as many of you are familiar with, and Warren Singh, who's with the Alberta Construction Association. Together, we're going to look at broader industry challenges, trends, and opportunities to improve safety in construction. So first, Adrianne is the Vice President of Employer Account Services and Claims Management with WCB-Alberta. Her more than 20 years of expertise in disability management have enabled her to lead transformative initiatives, including the Modified Work Generator, the Employer Mobile App, and the enhanced MyWCB Employer Portal. She's passionate about fostering engagement and collaboration and advocating a proactive return-to-work strategy that empowers employers to support their workers while ensuring a safe work environment. And also with us is Warren Singh. He's the Executive Director of the Alberta Construction Association, or the ACSA, as many of you know, an organization serving as the collective voice advocating for the construction industry in Alberta. Warren has been developing public policy and advocacy, has been in public policy and advocacy positions for almost 20 years, holding senior roles across various sectors, including government, academia, and industry advocacy. A lifelong Edmontonian, he enjoys spending time with his wife, Lindsay, and their 2 children. So welcome to you both. So I'll start with you, Adrianne. Thanks for joining us. And could you just start off by telling us about WCB's role and its perspective when it comes to safety in construction?
Well, thanks, Mark. And again, thanks so much for having me today. I'm really glad to be part of this conversation. And at WCB Alberta, we play a unique role in the safety landscape here in Alberta. And, certainly, prevention is foundational, but certainly with the focus with WCB, when an injury does occur, we want employers to be prepared. And so we work very closely with employers, with workers, and safety leaders to support strong return to work outcomes. And we know that when recovery goes well, the ripple effects include not just better health and better continuity on job sites, which leads to increased safety, but ultimately more stable premiums for the employers. And I know from my many years of working closely with ACSA, construction brings its own sets of challenges. There's fast-moving projects, diverse crews, physically demanding work for sure. And that's why we've made it a priority to offer tools and services that are practical, responsive, and grounded really in what employers are telling us that they need. So whether that's helping teams plan for modified work, or supporting their workers with better access to the claim through the worker mobile app as well. We're aiming to reduce those friction points and keep recovery and return to work moving in the right direction. And, I'll probably say this a few times today that, of course, prevention is foundational, and we work very closely with our partners at Occupational Health and Safety. But really, our day-to-day focus is how do we ensure that employers are really ready and equipped to support their workers in that recovery process. And we want employers to be able to support their workers in those instances. And that's how we build really trust and results across the system. And of course, no surprise to many of you, we continue to see changes in the nature of work and the complexity of claims. And so when employers ask, what's my role in this, our message is really simple. It's that leadership, it's that safety culture, and communication, and that focus on modified work can really make a powerful difference, and really want the folks out there, to know that we're here to help and support you in that. So when we talk about safety, for me, it really is about talking about partnership. And if things go right after an injury occurs, then everyone will benefit. It's your worker, it's your business, and it's the broader system that we share.
Thank you for that. And I can attest to you being a great partner to us as well and to many of the employers that we serve. So I'm looking forward to unpacking that a little bit more. So Warren, we'll go to you next. Can you tell us about ACA's role and perspective on safety and construction?
Thank you so much, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity again to speak to members. We have a lot of collective membership that we both serve in the industry, and I'm glad to be here. So just a little bit about ACA. We are a not-for-profit industry organization that was founded about 65 years ago. And through an integrated partnership with 8 local construction associations from across the province, we collectively serve over 3,000 general contractors, trade contractors, manufacturers, and supplier organizations within the ICI sector. So that's the industrial, commercial, and institutional sector. ACA regards safety as a foundational element of Alberta's construction industry. We recognize that safe workers and work sites are paramount for the industry writ large. The ACA, we actively promote the culture of safety through our collaboration, advocacy, and education efforts as well. So where we feel our role in the construction safety is that, one, we promote a culture of safety. And that means that we emphasize and foster a culture that requires a partnership of shared responsibility among all stakeholders. This collaboration approach ensures that safety is integrated into every aspect of construction operations as well. 2, that we focus on advocacy and policy development. So how ACA works is that we engage with the provincial governments, and that we engage with agencies from across the province to advocate for policies that enhance occupational health and safety standards. We participate in policy discussions, and we ensure that the construction industry voice is heard in the development of safety regulations as well. And of course, we endorse a lot of the work that the ACSA is doing and the work that your team is doing here, Mark, and we recommend participation for our members in its safety training programs as well. These programs are designed to equip workers and employers with knowledge and skills necessary to maintain safe work environments. And lastly, we support and contribute to the development of best practices in construction safety. We share the guidelines, procedures that are developed, and we assist companies in implementing effective safety measures in their work sites by working with and through ACSA and amongst our members and our 3,000 members as well. So through these initiatives and through these kind of overarching themes, we demonstrate our commitment to safety, and we think it's a top priority for the industry as well.
Thanks, Warren. We have so many questions from the conference, and so I want to jump right in. I'm going to start with you, Warren. We have a good partnership. We work on similar issues from different angles, and I appreciate that. And what we're hearing a lot, and I'm sure you're hearing too, is a lot about the industry's challenges, including the shortage of skilled tradespeople. And what we're hearing and what we're seeing potentially is that this is part of the perception of the construction industry. And in fact, a conference attendee commented to us that the labor market affects all sizes of businesses. And lately, there has been some radio advertising to promote people towards the trades. How can we all work together to sell the trades? And related to that question, how can we really address the perception that construction jobs are unstable, lack career growth, and most importantly to us, dangerous?
Well, thank you. These are really important questions to ask, and I appreciate the questions from the members coming forward. So, in terms of selling and the collaboration that we need to do, it isn't that one area or one component of construction needs to be sold. It holistically needs to be sold across many different areas. And so, when you look at the K to 12 education system all the way through to post-secondary and then beyond, I don't think the education and be able to collectively sell the trades is going to be an issue that we stop at one point. We're continually selling the improvement, continually selling how we can move our industry in a direction and work together with our partners to move that industry in a direction that is safer, it's more collaborative, and it does support overall safety for the people who are joining in as well. And so what we've looked at is 4 objectives to be able to support this. And one is promoting career stability and growth. And so when we look at what the demand is right now, just maybe I'll take a side here. We're looking at 59,000 people needed for the construction industry over the next 10 years. There's an expectation that we might be able to fill a lot of that gap, but we're still going to be left with some of it. And enough of it that is where we need to start offering that career stability and showing that the construction industry offers long-term high-tech and leadership career paths, and that the demand across the province is still going to continue to grow. While we see some changes happening here and there and markets go up and down and shift, there is the need and continual need for that infrastructure to happen, especially as we have hundreds of thousands of people moving to the province. I think in the last 2 years, we've seen 378,000 people move to Alberta. So that demand is not going to decrease unless they bring with them schools and hospitals and roads and everything else, which we all know they don't. The other is, so in addition to promoting career stability and growth, it's enhancing those safety measures. So, we've been a long-time partner with ACSA. We think that there's a lot of work that's being done here that is paramount to solving some of the challenges we see in terms of safety. And I think that there's initiatives that we see even in the schools that we can even further enhance. So training earlier on. So we look at the RAP program, and looking at things like try a trade and tools for schools. It's showing that how students can work with these type of tools and these type of careers to be able to show them that it is safe. It isn't, as long as you follow steps, as long as you take that training and you're able to do so. Public perception is always a difficult one, but we do work in collaboration and partnerships with others as well to be able to shift that and the mindset. And I think what we've seen is a growth, but maybe not enough growth for those who are underrepresented in our construction industry. So working with organizations like Women Building Futures, so I know you guys work closely with as well, that we can continue to offer programs and opportunities and link employers to those students and those people who are coming into the skilled trades, and then even into the industry beyond, who are women, who can then support them as well to be able to, I guess, build and kind of decrease that perception. We also have a program called Trade Pathways, where we're linking those who are underrepresented from, let's say, outside of Alberta, so newcomers into the province, into the country, and really starting to support them and connect them to employment opportunities in there. And then lastly, but just as important, is of course the training gaps. And as you well know, the accidents are more likely to happen with tradespeople in the first year of the role. And it's important that we promote safety early and often. And that isn't something that just happens, when they're taking their training. It's something that should happen every single day thereafter as well. So those training gaps that ACSA does so well in filling, and that we can continue to promote and utilize as well.
Well, and I think like you said, giving kids the opportunity to try tools and try the trades in a very controlled environment to learn how not to be risky, I think is a good opportunity. Adrianne, would you talk to us about this from a return to work perspective? I think there's some key learnings that we can integrate here.
Absolutely. And, certainly one of the main messages for folks that have talked with me, is always the most important thing that we can do for that injured worker and for you as an employer is really that focus on keeping the worker job attached. So whether that's through modified duties or retraining, staying connected to work and in the construction sector is really critical for the workers' recovery, but it also supports that workforce stability, I think, that we're talking about here in the long term. Now, we've seen some employers in construction take some really great creative approaches with workers in their industry who can't return to their original job. They bring them in as mentors, as trainers, or supporting roles that really leverage their deep experience, even if they can't be performing those specific physical duties. And that kind of continuity, I think, is valuable for not only the worker, but also the company. Now, from a WCB perspective, if someone's not able to return to their date of accident job, or they're not job attached, we certainly do retrain folks. And for many, one of those options is either things like a heavy equipment operator or a safety focused role. And we've had great success with that. And also with something we call our training on the job and our train in place program. And that gives employers a bit of a helping hand, a wage subsidy, while they train somebody for a new role within that industry. And it's a great option when that right opportunity exists. But that injured worker might just need some time to build those skill set or come back into the workforce. So certainly, again, back to prevention. But if an injury does occur, we are seeing some really encouraging stories of recovery, reskilling, and that ability to kind of contribute back to the trades. And the trades are a fantastic pathway for that focus.
I'm so encouraged to hear about those creative approaches. And, just one of the challenges is losing experienced workers, and that level of supervision contributes to a safer work environment in many places in construction. So I would encourage any employer dealing with this to look at those creative approaches, because it's really good for morale, number one, and number two, like you say,
Yes.
it keeps people at work. So I'm going to give you the next question
Absolutely.
here, Adrian.
Sure.
So building on this conversation about employer recruitment challenges, we received two questions related to fairness and accuracy of injury claims. The first is, how does the WCB ensure fairness and accuracy in claims where there's a disagreement or uncertainty about whether an injury is work-related? And then what can employers do if they believe a claim may not be work-related? And how does the WCB approach those situations?
Sure. Well, thanks, Marge. Really, Mark, that focus is, really we want to be grounded in fairness, in fact gathering, and always collaboration. And so when we assess whether an injury is work related, we're looking really at all the available information to determine, did that, arise out of work or occur in the course of employment? So we're looking to gather that information from the employer, the worker, and of course we look at medical information that comes to us. Now, we recognize that certainly there may be situations where people see things differently. And when that happens, our responsibility is to make really objective and transparent decisions rooted in evidence and communicate that to the parties involved. So we really call that our adjudication framework. And that's supported by clear policies that folks follow. We have audits in place, decision audits, multi-level review processes, and of course, an appeal, a request for a review or appeal process if someone after those steps is still in disagreement. And really the goal of those safeguards is to help ensure that fairness you spoke of and accuracy, and really support the trust in the system overall. And of course, we want to ensure when we look at the system and the roles of stewards of the system, we want to make sure that those resources are available for the workers who need them the most, while also being accountable to the employers who do fund the workers' compensation system. And that balance is really built into everything we do. So I will say, certainly, in those rare cases where there's that disagreement, or perhaps where fraud is suspected, we do have certainly, processes in place to report that, to share that information, really to detect, investigate, and address that case. And, I will say that, of course, most people engage in the system in good faith, workers and employers, and we're grateful for that. But if there are concerns, then, certainly want the groups to know that we do have a process, we do handle those with care and through the appropriate channels. Now, I've talked about collaboration earlier, and even when there is a disagreement about a claim, we do find that the most constructive path forward is really keeping that focus on recovery as we work through that process. So again, supporting return to work, whether it's in modified or retraining, not only helps workers, but plays a key role in influencing claims outcomes and costs. And that's really where employers have the greatest impact and where we see the most success. So I think to come back to the key points there, Mark, is I do think most people are engaging in a genuine way, but there are processes in place, like I said, to let us know about that, to let us know your concern. There's a link and a form on the website, and of course, if you're dealing with someone at WCB, then please let them know the information that you have and why you're concerned.
Thanks for that. I'm gonna stick with you and just say, most of our employers in construction are small. In fact, for the ACSA's members, 85% are considered small employers. And in construction, we know that our small employers face unique challenges, including challenges around worker safety. And so I know that the WCB has a lot of resources to support our employers. So this question came up. How will resources remain accessible and effective for small businesses with limited budgets?
Well, thanks, Mark. And our stats certainly mirror yours. Like the vast majority of employer accounts in Alberta are, in fact, those small to mid-sized employers, the owner-operators, and you can imagine that navigating disability management and return to work can certainly feel overwhelming. These are the folks that don't have dedicated human resource teams or safety advisors. And that's really why our focus in the last few years is really to pay even more attention to that demographic and look at how we can make sure that the accessible support and services we have are really grounded in the realities that employers are facing today. Now, we offer, webinars, we have in-person seminars on everything from modified work and claims management to return to work best practices. And many of those are designed specifically for newer or growing employers. And I spoke about our partnership with Occupational Health and Safety earlier, and this past January, we partnered with them to deliver a joint session on prevention, but also disability management and safety. And we had over 600 employers, and most of them were that small to medium size range, including in the construction sector. And we're certainly planning to continue that as we move forward. And we got some really good feedback on that from those folks that participated. And I'll remind some of the folks joining us today may or may not know that we do have industry-specific support. We call them industry specialists, and they're connected to sector associations, including the ACSA, and absolutely can help tailor return-to-work strategies. They can action plan with employers, small or large, and really help support you in finding what tools might help you do that work. And one of the most meaningful changes that I've been so pleased with is implementing some feedback that we heard directly from action planning with small and medium-sized employers. And we heard loud and clear that they wanted practical, user-friendly ways, right, that will help them manage return to work because, again, they're not familiar with WCB or may never have had an injury on the job before. So taking that feedback, we launched our digital disability management toolkit, really a straightforward, short tool that's designed to make planning and communication easier for the employer and their worker, and really is a 1, 2, 3 on what you need to know as an employer. Now, I also wanted to share, often I'll hear folks like, well, how do we provide feedback? Adrianne, we can do that through your industry support team. Absolutely let anyone at WCB know I'm always open to feedback, especially if you've got some ideas or suggestions on how to make things better. But we also do quarterly surveys through a third party where they do reach out to employers and ask and really want to understand what's working, where there's room to improve. And that feedback really does help us dig deeper and prioritize which changes will make a difference. So again, through that outreach, through the continuing focus on those self-help tools, and again, I'll use the word collaboration. We're really committed to making sure that employers, no matter how big or small they are, feel equipped, I'd say informed and supported in helping their workers return to work.
All right, thank you. So I think you'll agree, Warren, too. One of the things that smaller employers could do is actually become engaged in their locals. There's a lot of resources and knowledge that flow from the ACSA, ACA and the ACSA through to the local construction associations. But I'm going to change tacts here, Warren, and I want to talk about some of the regulatory things that are going on, specifically around supervisors. And we talked earlier about how important it is to have those experienced supervisors on site, working with new employees. But we also know that we received 2 questions at our conference about supervisors being charged under OH&S legislation. And the question specifically is, given this kind of emerging environment that's holding supervisors more accountable for workplace safety, what do you think we can do to inspire workers to become supervisors, and how should we support them in becoming competent as supervisors?
Well, and thank you, Mark. I think for our side, you're exactly right. Working with the locals, they provide a lot of opportunities there. Some of our associations provide over 50 courses annually, such as Edmonton and Calgary. And this is in areas of project management, risk, and leadership. And so there's a lot of opportunities there for people to get into that leadership role, start taking those courses, start leveling up, I always say, their experience and their opportunities as well, by maybe putting their hand up during certain situations to be able to take on a new task and try that new thing. So as you build it forward, it's not going to be a leap. There never is that leap there. Sometimes we wish there is, but there isn't that leap. So you're going to have to do that iterative approach where you consistently have that training available. And that means that the employers and supervisors need to invest in that high quality training opportunities. So it's a building block that helps get the best out of our potential supervisors and staff. And I think there's some really good programs out there. ACSA has one called Leadership for Safety Excellence. And that's a vital tool there that teaches technical knowledge, but also some of the interpersonal communication and conflict resolution skills, which we hear time and time again are a growing need, right? Certification, continuous learning as well. So just, in terms of that standardization, requiring that certification, such as construction safety officer or national construction safety officer designation, I think that kind of competencies that can be built within and that standard level of competencies can help, someone understand what the idea of being a supervisor will be and then what's expected of them. And they can take that through workshops and online modules as well. And then, of course, there's a number of peer mentorship groups and peer networks as well. I know that's Young Builders Group, which the Edmonton Construction Association hosts. They allow new supervisors to learn from experienced leaders and as well kind of have that peer support. So it's kind of growing that cohort in there as well. And they can build that confidence and also hear from practical insights that go beyond that textbook knowledge that they would get in a classroom. And then lastly, we do have some industry-wide efforts. We continually work with and collaborate with our members and government industry partners, post-secondary institutions, and of course, safety associations to develop and update programs aligned with current site realities. I know that there's one that we've kind of worked with a number of organizations, just, that it isn't part of the trades, but it is so important on the site. Things like telehandler, Zoom Boom, those type of things that we kind of have that will just help supplement someone when they're on the site. And then we'd advocate as well for recognition and support of supervisor development through government policy and funding. I think for us, we've been bullish and very bullish on things like the Canada-Alberta Job Grant for our members. And that support has allowed a lot of training, a lot of leadership capacity to come through. And we're hoping to see that kind of change and that kind of opportunity happen for the construction industry as we need to be more and more productive with our less and less people, it seems like we have lately. So again, those are a few things. Lastly, of course, that we share best practices. I think conferences and events like this that we're doing right now is a good opportunity for people to kind of learn what's happening and what's going on the ground as well.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm with you on sharing best practices as well as the training. I do hope that Canada Job Grant comes back. It was very successful in the construction industry. I totally agree with that. I want to build on this by talking about a lot of the folks that come and use the services or promote the services of the ACSA, and those are health and safety advisors. And so this next question from the conference comes in to say, how can safety professionals influence all stakeholders in the importance of safety measures when current trends need lean management and efficiency with productivity? How do we support this dual purpose? And before I kind of hand it over to you, Warren and Adrian, I just would like to say that I understand this. My interpretation of this question: how can safety professionals convince everyone involved, workers, supervisors, management, and other stakeholders, to prioritize safety, even when businesses focus on lean management, efficiency, and productivity? And I think the second part is to seek ways to balance these dual goals to ensure safety without sacrificing productivity and vice versa. But I'm open to your thoughts here, Warren.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate that. And again, our belief, and I think I mentioned it at the conference last time too, is, safety and productivity do go hand in hand. I honestly believe that they may not even be competing goals, that they have to be in that similar path, in that, these are strategic partners together, both at productivity and safety, to deliver on the value, efficiency, and long-term success. We would say that for our stakeholders at all level, and workers, senior leadership, professionals, must adopt safety as a business critical strategy and not just a compliance requirement. So it's not treated as that. It's treated as this is part of our critical strategy to move ahead and build that in. And so talking about lean construction and some of the ideas there, I think, making safety part of that language. So when you track, safety metrics on dashboards and similar dashboards, and look at production milestones, when we include safety in our workshop and strategy sessions and root cause analysis as well. When we make every kind of toolbox talk, there's a component that is about safety and efficiency. So, again, during our board meetings at ACA, we always have a safety and productivity moment. They don't, a lot of times they are in line with what they are. So we do that every time right at the beginning of our meetings as well. And again, it's part of the system, and we just got to make it part of that system. It's not an add-on. It's not something that is just a compliance requirement that we have to, meet in case there's an OH&S officer or someone on site to be able to monitor. It's key in supporting productivity and having that safe environment where we reduce downtime, minimize costly incidents, and enhance overall worker morale and efficiency. And I think that's a key component too, as well, as we start talking about introducing and getting people into the trades. It's really getting that morale, that confidence that leads to that efficiency, that leads to that productivity. It leads to less disruptions. It has less incidents and investigations. It has lower turnover, we find, when we see more people becoming more and more safe. So I think, again, it's an asset. It's part of it. Rather than a hurdle, it needs to be part of lean construction and part of our management system as well. And then bridge that gap between traditional safety protocols and modern efficiency-driven practices. Those need to be going hand in glove, like I've said before. So I think that's kind of our perspective from the ACA.
Thanks, Warren. I would agree with you. I think, safety is just one component of the overall quality that a company provides, and I'm really happy to hear you embrace and advocate for that as well. So, Adrianne, we have some specific questions for you, but I promise you they're not about anybody's case. The first is, we have a member that deals with contractors that are in exempt industries. Can they apply for WCB coverage? And will it be provided in the event of an injury, excuse me? And what is the liability if somebody hires a contractor in an exempt industry?
Sure. Some great questions. And I'll maybe take a step back and, again, just absolutely reiterate what you said, that not all industries in Alberta are automatically covered by WCB, and that's what we call exempt industries. And if someone is in one of those industries, of course, now they're not required, right, by law to have that WCB coverage, but they can, to speak to the question, yes, they can voluntarily apply. So it's not automatic. They have to apply in order to get that coverage, protection for themselves and protection for their workers. And so if they do, of course, then they're under the same parameters as anyone else. So their workers would receive the same benefits and protections as, those in the covered industries, including, as a reminder, that's wage replacement, it's medical support. And one of the things I'll build on here with this answer is really that protection from legal action if an injury occurs. So that's really the focus for business owners, and I'll take a moment here to comment on, the owners, the directors or incorporated contractors to consider personal coverage. And that's so important because as an owner operator, you're not mandated to have that WCB coverage. And if you don't have it and you're injured at work, then of course you're not covered by WCB. Personal coverage, offers some important things like that benefit to income replacement, to medical care that I mentioned. But I'll highlight again, it protects you as an owner operator from that financial and legal risk if you're hurt while working for someone else. So a little bit of a plug on why I believe that's so important. But I think the main point of your question is if I'm hiring someone in an exempt industry, I'm looking at those contractors or subcontractors. Yes, it's very important that you understand how WCB coverage is applied. And so our role when someone is coming to us to apply for an account, just to share with the group, one of the things that we do look at is that they're operating truly as an employer under the Workers' Compensation Act. And that means that we walk through and really assess, do they meet that criteria? And that's things like, do they have control over their work, ownership of tools or equipment? Are they at financial risk, because they have investments in the company? And whether they have an established business infrastructure, like do they have contracts? Do they have insurance? Have they marketed their services? So those are some things that we look at to ensure if an employer is really, if someone's meeting that definition of what we consider an employer. So if it is, then of course we can grant an account, whether that's, again, in an exempt industry. But if not, then we determine that individual to be a worker. Now, I wanted to really clarify that this process is in place to ensure that coverage is appropriate, that roles are clear, and that everyone, whether a contractor or a company, is engaging them is protected in the event of an injury. So really the importance of you, if you're hiring a subcontractor or contractor, is to make sure that if you understand, do they have coverage? And we do have a very simple process. It's called getting a clearance on an employer account. For those of you that are familiar with WCB, you'll probably speak to how easy that is. We have information available on our website, through our online services, through our employer mobile app that you can quickly, easily determine. If you're hiring Adrianne, the contractor, does she in fact have a WCB account in good standing? And I'll just loop back, Mark, if you're looking to hire Adrianne, the contractor, and she's an exempt industry, then absolutely Adrianne can go through the process of contacting WCB to get coverage before you make that decision.
I appreciate that answer, and I think coverage is a good thing. That's just me personally. So we are reaching close to the end of our time, and so I have one final question from our conference. And I think it's going to be a really good one to end this part of the Q&A. It's directed towards the ACSA, and I'll start, but I'd also love to hear your perspectives on this. So what are some of the key strategies and best practices that the ACSA recommends for fostering a culture of safety within a construction organization? And just from my perspective, I want to start the conversation with the call to action that first-year workers are making up more than half of all WCB claims in constructions. 55% are making up claims in construction in Alberta. And that points to the obvious need for employers and the industry writ large to invest in onboarding so that workers at a new company can get used to their new tasks, their new work site, and the crew dynamics. And we need to emphasize that these all take time and experience, even for workers experienced in construction. We want to encourage project managers to carve out time at the beginning of projects to ensure quality on-site orientations occur. There's active supervision and mentorship. and from experienced coworkers. But I would also add, every problem in a construction project manifests itself on site. So if you have a problem in the supply chain, and that's just somebody ordering materials months in advance and there's a challenge there, that manifests itself on site. If you don't plan the schedule of the project effectively and it's too compressed, that manifests itself on site. And often that manifestation results in injury claims or worse. So understanding the holistic approach to planning and ensuring that those first year workers are taken care of by putting safety as part of your planning, like Warren said earlier, I think is the best approach. And I'll do a small plug that this is the final week of our Safety Showdown online contest and the kickoff of our frontline injury prevention campaign. So for those of you on the webinar, you still have a few days to participate in the contest and win prizes, including a team lunch on the ACSA and a luxury suite at the Flames or Oilers game. I know which one I would choose as a lifelong Edmontonian. One team is still playing, that's all I'll say. So you have to visit safetyshowdown.ca and hopefully you can win some of those prizes. And you can access resources to support your onboarding process at firstyear.youracsa.ca. So that's my plug. But Adrianne, I'd like to turn it to you. What are your thoughts on how employers can foster a culture of safety excellence?
I think that's key. It really starts with, employers leading with intent. It's really making safety not just a compliance requirement or a checklist, but really, I think, a core part of how they operate and support their people day in and day out. As I said earlier, we often think about safety in the context of prevention, which is absolutely critical. But I'd emphasize that a safety culture is, I think, most visible when something does go wrong. How does the employer respond in that moment? That matters, just as much as what was in place before the injury. And I've seen so many employers in the construction sector do this really well. They prioritize, early access to care. They stay in regular contact with the worker when they're injured. They work hard to provide modified duties that are meaningful. And really that message to your worker is that you're still valued, you're still part of the team, and we're in this with you. So your worker's not just seeing that, all of your other workers that are healthy and well and focusing on prevention that aren't hurt are seeing what you do in that moment. And so I think that's the main thing that I see, that safety excellence really isn't just about the policies or the PPE. It's really about relationships. It's that follow through, and it's really the tone that comes from not just the top, but from ground up as well.
Yeah, thank you. Well said. And Warren, what strategies do you recommend for employers striving for safety excellence?
I appreciate this question, and I think Adrianne touched on a lot of the points, and you did as well, Mark, in terms of how it needs to be led from the top, and it needs to be visible. And that senior leaders and supervisors, they have to model that safe behavior and, again, prioritize safety in all decisions, that they have the resources and support there, that they invest in that safety training, that they have programs to show commitment as well. And I really like what Adrianne was talking about in terms of the open communication. It needs to be encouraged that you can report hazards and near misses, that the first year employee isn't worried about any reprisal on that they can say, hey, yeah, you know what, this almost happened, and that they can provide that to the employer. Employer goes, okay, that's something to learn from and build off of, rather than being a punitive measure or anything like that there. So I think those type of ideas would be great. Of course, ongoing training, looking at core and C-core certification. So, maintaining the certification of recognition to demonstrate that commitment as well. And then I would lastly say just those auditing and inspections, regularly assess those safety systems, continually look at your workplace conditions, because those change, sometimes daily. they can change. So regularly kind of taking a look at that, reassessing, and really looking at your safety systems at a holistic level, like you mentioned before. So again, just tripling down on what you guys had said. Yeah, and that would be it.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. We have a couple questions from the Slido before our time is up. The first one is directed towards you, Adrianne, and then, Warren, I'd ask you to jump in and talk about some things going on in the industry. But Adrianne, can you give a little bit more information on what the process is for mental health claims and things like that with the WCB? I think that is, I mean, our 2023 conference was all about mental health in the construction industry, but it is, I think, on the top of everybody's mind, and I'm just wondering
Sure.
if you could shed some light on that.
Absolutely, Mark. And again, that's where we really see, the employer being key in that proactive approach, right, with the culture of safety, but also psychological safety on the workforce. Now, if there is an issue or a claim, a psychological injury, the process, if you recall, I spoke to the adjudication process and what we look at in gathering information from the employer, from the injured worker, from medical providing. That's the same process. Now, sometimes, of course, these can be more complex types of claims, and so we have specialized teams that are focused on psychological injury. So they have some additional experience and skill sets to deal with those and help you as the employer navigate. But the focus is the same, working with the employer, working with the worker and the healthcare provider on modified work duties and getting that individual back to work as soon as safely as possible. So really the same approach and process. And again, I'll speak to that proactive I think, power that the employer has to set that psychologically safe workplace and that safety culture. So encourage you. There are so many resources available. I know, Mark, right through the ACSA, and certainly. If you go to our website too, there's some information on that process and on some additional free resources that you as employers can access in navigating that. So lots of supports. You're not alone in that.
Perfect. Thank you, Adrianne. And Warren, what are you seeing from an industry perspective? I know that there's a lot of discussion about mental health and even suicide prevention and things like that in the construction industry. Like, could you shed some light on what's going on industry-wide?
You bet, and it's a huge conversation to continue to have, and we need to. Again, having the mental health and having people coming into the job site feeling that they're safe, feeling that they can be productive that day helps not just them but everyone on the site. So I think there's a few opportunities that we've been made aware of. One is a really great one. I'm going to give a plug to our Calgary Construction Association, who's doing a great job. And what they're doing is it's called Tailgate Toolkit. If you haven't heard of that yet, it's a really good opportunity to have that conversation. Bring someone in, maybe if you're an employer and you don't feel as comfortable either, to have that and open up that kind of conversation with your staff, to be able to bring someone who is dedicated to this and provides that service to you from the industry and understands the industry as well. I think is just going to be it's really, really well done, and it's already received about a couple hundred requests. They thought they would start off slow and easy, but it's been a couple hundred requests that have come through. And then there's programs like Buddy Up, which I think is just, again, bringing awareness and allowing the industry to understand that, back to Adrianne's point, that you're not alone, that there are people that are there to help and support you as you're going through what you're going through. Not everything that happens on the job site may lead to mental health issues, but so you can talk about whatever's going on in your life to be able to do that. And there's a peer support network that can really help and support you on that as well, from people that may even be in your company and may be involved in that. So again, those are just two examples. I think, again, though, it's one of those things that we need to pay a lot more attention to. And I know we've had some conversations as well, Mark, that, just in terms of what's happening on the ground right now. So I'm glad to see that there's some activity happening and that there's a lot of resources out there as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for highlighting the program in Calgary. It is pretty innovative, and it, I hope it works out, and I'm sure it will. So this last question is for me, but I wouldn't mind anybody else jumping in. I know Adrianne and I have spoken about the addressing serious incidents and fatalities as opposed to just injury claims and things like that as part of a safety program. But the question is that we've seen a change in direction from total recordable incident rate or total recordables, TRIF, if you want to call it that, to potential serious injuries and fatalities or serious injuries and fatalities, SIFs or PSIFs. Is the industry looking at adding resources to make PSIFs more well understood? From my perspective at the ACSA, we definitely want to do that. We're seeing that call to action from a number of the purchasers of construction services, but also some of the larger, more robust companies that really want to concentrate on serious injuries and fatalities, the stuff that can kill you. But from my perspective, and this is where I really want to work with Warren, and maybe I'm handing you a grade right now, is it's not going to gain traction until those purchasers make it part of their pre-qualification. And that is the challenge, is that if they keep asking for TRIF numbers and they keep asking for total recordables, that's what our industry will do. And so I'm going to open it up to you, Warren, and Adrianne, just to talk a little bit about addressing serious incidents and fatalities in construction.
You bet, and of course that's it's such an issue for each of the employers to have to go through that, and the employees that they have, and you feel for those whose families who have to deal with that. It is something that I think there's more work that you're right that we can help and support with you guys on and support the industry on in terms of that. I think a lot of when we talk about pre-qualification, that is included. We're starting to see that more and more happening in terms of, what's your OH&S record? What does that look like? Some of the larger general contractors, prime contractors who get and work with some of the larger owners as well, whether it be public or private owners, are really trying to get that safety record and show that they are a safe place to work and a safe environment to work. Because again, this all leads into the bigger picture conversation about attracting people in there, right? The more that these serious incidents happen, the less and less attractive this kind of industry is. So I would say that again, you've hit the nail on the head on how we need to work together and where we need to go. I would just say that you were starting to see that more and more. And we're hoping that we can have more and more best practices, standardized training, those type of things. As you see these things happen, like we have take the learnings from them, these unfortunate, very unfortunate situations that happen, that we also utilize those as kind of a learning mechanism to be able to say, okay, here's what happened, and here's how we can mitigate that possibly for the next time as well.
Thanks, Warren. And Adrianne, anything to add there before we close up the conference?
Sure. I'll be quick, just to really echo, I think, some of the things that both of you said is, from a WCB perspective, it was just, not quite the end of the month in April, right, when we have our National Day of Mourning, and WCB, of course, when there is a fatality, our folks, our team that deals with the spouses and the children, the impact, the focus this past year was not just on family, but on friends, on those coworkers, is huge. And I think, some of the earlier questions when you talked about culture, about attracting new workers, young workers, those are the things that they look at, right? It's really so important to be able to know that you're going to come home at the end of the day. So I would just echo that it is of the utmost importance. And we've seen initiatives over the years, in my time, many, many years ago, I remember the focus certainly on lost time claims and the fact that more and more people were getting hurt. And there was a really targeted effort to impact that positively. So I think this community has done that before. They've done it successfully. And I think with your focus, as you were talking about, Mark and Warren, I think it can be done.
I appreciate that. And I'm always a fan of positivity. So with that, I'll say thank you to both of you. We've covered a lot of great content today. And just before we wrap up, Adrianne and Warren, I'll ask you, Adrianne, you first, if you have any final remarks that you'd like to share.
Well, I think one takeaway I'd leave everyone with, and this has been, I think, peppered throughout the comments today, is that, you're not alone in navigating these questions. You've got these great partners with ACSA and ACA, and again, from a WCB perspective, lots of resources to support you. So really encourage you to reach out to understand your resources, and I'd encourage you to keep asking questions. What's working, what's not working, and more importantly, what's possible, because that's really how safety excellence and innovation move forward, right? So I'm just so pleased that I was invited today, and it really is a privilege to be part of this particular community and this discussion. So thank you.
Thank you. And Warren, I'll let you close it off here.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the invitation. Really important discussion to continue to have, and I hope that we continue to do so over the next months and years thereafter. It is about promoting that culture of safety and just understanding that safety and productivity in terms of building that efficiency and effectiveness doesn't have to be at odds. It can be complementary, and it can move forward a project, and in fact it does. I think there's enough evidence out there that shows that. So I want to leave with that kind of conversation, and as well as getting involved, taking that training, being involved, being the leader for your community, being the leader for your organization, being involved with ACSA, and of course a plug for ACA and our local members as well. Getting involved helps, I think, build that community out, share those best practices, and starts engendering that culture of safety as well. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Mark and Adrianne. It's been a pleasure to speak with you today.
Well, thank you to you both, Adrianne and Warren, and everybody that joined us today. And like you said, Warren, safety and business success work together. And hopefully everybody has practical ways to boost both after today. A recording of this webinar will be available on the ACSA's YouTube channel by Monday. Please keep your Slido window open and fill out our short post-webinar survey. Your feedback helps us improve these webinars. And be sure to join us next Wednesday, June 4th, as we host Rohit Homes and Careers the Next Generation to discuss supporting our new workers. A registration link is in the chat right now and available on our website at youracsa.ca. We look forward to seeing you then. Thank you, everybody, for your time and expertise, and stay safe. See you soon. Take care.